Singapore merchants lose an estimated 1.2 billion US dollars annually to payment failures, highlighting growing pressure to modernize payment infrastructure and reliability. To discuss this, we have Nagesh Devata of Payoneer. Welcome, Nagesh. Let's start with the problem. What is causing the biggest payment losses for Singapore merchants?
So firstly, good morning. And I think the biggest challenge when it comes to Singapore merchants and the payment frictions they face is there's a lot of hidden challenges. We start by just looking at how much e-commerce growth is driven from Asia. It's massively significant. Yet the merchants are losing a lot of value through failed transactions, right? So some of the key challenges are failed transactions, foreign exchange leakage, settlement delays, meaning I don't get my money on time. And these are all challenges that merchants of all types and sizes face across the region. And really, it's critical for them to stay competitive and also to protect and optimize the revenues that they're working so hard to earn.
Let me focus on checkout failures that you've mentioned. How does it exactly affect business growth? And would you be able to give some examples?
Sure. So where I think one of the most common areas of checkout failure starts from is you can think about it almost like leakage. And it comes because a lot of merchants start their business and they ultimately create probably what's something that's a bit more of a fragmented payments infrastructure, especially the type of business that's operating in the cross-border payment space. A lot of these are the types of merchants we serve at Payoneer. But reality is that many merchants still rely on multiple payment providers. They rely on multiple banks, different FX providers. And all of this creates additional cost, complexity. These are all different challenges. And there are things like the FX conversion that can add up. Cross-border acceptance fees, when you're accepting cards from or payment methods from other customers around the world, that can add up. So all of these definitely add up. And these are a lot of things that we did share as part of our study. But I give you an example. There's a company called Adventure Shop. It's a camping gear retailer. They were facing high foreign exchange conversion costs when receiving international payments. So with Payoneer, what they were able to do was start to think about how to think about multi-currency capabilities. The business can now hold and settle funds in multiple currencies, reducing the need for frequent currency conversions, and ultimately lowering their overall payment processing costs. And the reality is, we could say, just even if you take an external industry point of view, is that, for example, Capgemini estimates that for cash and FX management can cost companies upwards to 7% of their annual revenue. So all of these things combined, settlement delays, they're growing challenges for merchants. So if I'm a merchant and my money's stuck and in transit for a few days, right, that's working capital that I need. And ultimately, the way I would see this is not just a finance or back office problem. So coming back to your beginning questions, is really how do you look at this from an opportunity point of view or from an optimization point of view to become a more efficient, smarter business and ultimately give the experience that your customers want.
With that, if you were to make recommendations, Nagesh, what should merchants fix first to reduce payment friction?
From my perspective, I really think it needs to be something they prioritize. Starting when I say prioritize, it's not something that they should just delegate to the background and worry about. I think they need to think about their business. Who am I selling to? Am I selling to someone in Singapore locally, or am I trying to sell to someone in another market? It could be in Southeast Asia, globally, right? So I think those are where I would put the time and effort as a merchant, and make sure I have an experience, one that meets the needs of a customer. So what does that mean? That means being able to provide different types of payment methods. Not everyone has the same type of method. So that's one. I would think about what are the settlement times? How fast does money come through? That's important. I would also just ultimately think about the experience that I provide. So it's not just about trust for the merchant, it's trust for the consumer. And that's where I would probably focus on as a merchant, being able to have something that really starts to look like an end-to-end solution. So in our world, we think about how do you get money in and how do you take money out? So I think it's that. You want to reduce the number of pieces, you want to reduce the potential points of friction, and you just want it to flow nicely. That's where I would invest time if I was a merchant.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts, Nagesh. Looking forward to having you back on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today.
Once again, that was Nagesh Devata, Senior Vice President for Asia Pacific at Payoneer. For more news, visit sbr.com.sg.